Do props really get the props, the recognition, the credit that they deserve for having one of the most difficult and grueling positions in world rugby? The short answer is no. And I want to break that down in this video. I want to give you my thoughts and my opinions, but I want to hear yours as well. So please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. And if you guys want to grab yourself a free 30-day trial, check the description. You'll find a link there. Yes, you do need to add in some basic information, but just make sure to cancel before the trial ends so that way you don't get charged if you're unhappy with the service. But I haven't really run into anyone that isn't. So let's break it down, right? Now, being a prop is not easy. Yes, it's not the flashiest in the world. Yes, you aren't players like Brian Habana. You are not players like Antoine Dupont, Biel Biarré, your Hugo Keenans, your James Lowe, setting the world alight, sidestepping people, scoring those brilliant tries. You just aren't, right? And oftentimes it's because of the position that they are in, they get overlooked. Has there ever been a prop that has won World Player of the Year? No, there hasn't. They are always overlooked. There are players that get nominated. I believe Tadhg Furlong, a couple of years ago, he was nominated as well. Ultimately, he didn't win it. And most of the time, well, I think there's only been a handful of times where we've actually seen forwards um, win the title. And that often falls to back rowers. So you have your Richie McCaw, Peter Seftertoit, Brody Retallick. Um, Obviously Retallick was a lock, but it's more towards the back end. The front three is normally a very grueling position. It's not very flashy, but it's one of these when things start to go wrong, they're in the spotlight, right? When they're doing their job as they're supposed to be, they get unseen, right? Because they are doing their job right. The scrums are working well. The lineouts are doing brilliantly. They are making brilliant tackles. They are relieving pressure. They're doing their job. But again, they don't have that kind of ability where they are going to be sidestepping people, where they're going to be breaking the defensive and breaking the gain line and just absolutely sprinting through. It's not going to happen. Yes, we do see players like your Dan Sheehan, who's a hooker from out of this world. He doesn't even seem like he's from the same planet at times, where he's just scoring left, right, and center. We have I think his name's Lamoth playing the French top 14. He banged himself a hat trick just over the weekend, and honestly, it's fantastic. It's amazing when you see forwards, especially the front three scoring tries. It's always sets them above and beyond. The rest. People are surprised that they are able to do this, but honestly, I always feel that players, especially the props, they do their job and they get overlooked constantly. We look at Nché as an example, quite possibly the best loosehead prop in world rugby. Made world player, he made the team of the year for 2024. And personally, I feel he played so well. He should have been one of the nominations for World Player of the Year. But when you have players like your Peter Seftertoit, Benetsabet, ultimately being called up for World Player of the Year, and Peter Seftertoit eventually ended up winning it, it's hard to fit all of the players in there at the same time, right? So, but what makes the difference? Is it the flashy tries, people like Biel Biarré getting into their double digits, scoring tries left, right, and center? Because ultimately, that's what the fans want to be seeing. They want to be seeing the flashy players. They want to be seeing action. They want to be seeing people being taken on, breaking people's ankles, and just absolutely demolishing wings and scoring fantastic, amazing tries. But nobody really pays attention to just how detailed scrums are, which is something that I honestly believe that Rassi has hit the nail dead on in terms of having a specialized scrum um, official, right? Specific to scrums, someone that has been trained in scrums, because 90% of the time, the props and the people in the scrum actually understand the movement, how things work, far better than what the referee does himself, right? So that we're having a specialized scrum coach, sorry, specialized scrum official, it will allow things to be a lot more um, a lot more detailed, a lot more accurate, and it would probably end up solving a whole bunch of unnecessary calls and unnecessary issues. So that's something I definitely subscribe to Rassi in terms of that. But when you look at all of the elite level props that's been through the years, whether you have Tadhg Furlong, you have Frans Malherbe, you have Winnie Antonio, you have Andrew Porter, you have Jason Leonard, you have Os Durant, you have Tony Woodcock, all of these, like Tony Woodcock is one of the most legendary props in New Zealand rugby, getting over, was there over 100 caps? Os Durant, he's the only prop to win two World Cups. And no, I think Nché, Nché has now done that as well. Yeah, I think Nché has is also now a player that has won two World Cups as well. So yeah, now thinking about it, I mean, you look at the bomb squad, a vast majority of these players, have all joined the legendary status of actually having multiple World Cups um as a prop. Come to think of it, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, you look at the quality, you look at Oxenche, you look at what he does for the Springboks, you look at what he does for the Sharks, you look at Andrew Porter, he's a tireless engine, he's a machine. Look at what he does for Leinster. Look at what he does for Ireland. Same thing with Tadhg Furlong. Same thing with, a lot of these elite. Look at Pierre Schoeman. Pierre Schoeman is an absolute monster, both for Edinburgh and for Scotland, although he's South African. But, that's neither here or there. But you look at a lot of these elite level players, um, they always get overlooked. And when you actually break it down, yes, they aren't, you know, for their size, they aren't sprinting up and down. They're getting their job done. They're getting it done right, right? And they've got ridiculous engines on them for people that are so big. They don't have any flashy stats. It's more getting the job done, doing what needs to be done to keep, to keep the engine running, to keep everything flowing as it's supposed to be, right? Because as a back, you are given a little bit more freedom than what you are when it comes down to being forward. We look at Stephen Kitsoff, who he ended up retiring, was it earlier this year? Late 20, I think it was either, yeah, it was early 2025, where after his surgeries and he sustained himself a neck injury in 2024, which had him, I think it was literally inches away from death, for injury that was sustained in a scrum. I think it was in the Curry Cup. Um, you know, you think of the amount of pressure that is put on these players' bodies. It is ridiculous. When they are training scrums. They are essentially walking bricks, walking houses, smashing into other walking houses, right? You look at the size of these forwards, especially the new age forwards, they are ridiculous. Imagine having to train with a player like Ibanezabet, that's 7 foot tall. Well, it's like 6'8", 6'9", but weighing 100, 110, 115 kilos relatively easily, relatively easily. And then you have all of these other different monsters, Arceus Neyman as well, you know, and it's like, okay, now, oh, you know what, I'm going to have to train up against Ellis Genge, the guy who's just tirelessly working. And it's just the amount of stress that is put on these players. It is ridiculous. But you also got to take in consideration, yes, they don't necessarily run, but they age like fine wine. They are. It is a position that allows them to be able to play into their mid to late 30s relatively easily, where the lifespan of, let's say, a winger will often tend to die out late 20s, very early 30s. When you have a player like Makozole Mapimpi, who's 36 years old, he's kind of like an aberration. He's different. He's just built differently. To be able to be playing as a winger at his age at the highest level of rugby, that's not something you tend to find that often. Playing at the best, you know, playing at the highest level of rugby. Whereas where you have players like Bongi and Bonambi, who's 36 years old and he's still going very strong. Eben Etzebeth, 2024, nominated as one of the contenders for World Player of the Year at 33 years old. So the forwards, they actually tend to age, well, they age the same, but in terms of a playing career, they actually tend to develop better. They tend to come better as they get older, right? They're more experienced, their body is more developed. Yes, they also have a lot more miles on them, but it does allow them to play further on into their mid to late 30s, which is something you don't tend to find with a lot of backs. So, I don't know. As long as rugby is seen the way it is, I can never see props ever getting their props. I can never see props getting the credit that they truly deserve for the work rate that they put in. Because if players like Andrew Porter, if players like Tadhg Furlong, if players like Nché are not giving people confidence to nominate them as best players in the world, what will? What will they need to do to be able to earn that title as, World Player of the Year? And whoever ends up getting it, they must do something so spectacular, or pretty much every single one of the backs in World Rugby end up getting injured simultaneously. So I don't know. I want to hear what you guys think. Is there a bias towards this? Is there, is it just pure flair and action? Because if we're looking at a World Player of the Year, yes, it's all well being, in the Team of the Year, but to get that specific accolade, it surely sets players apart, right? But when it comes to forwards in general, there's only a handful of players that have ever been crowned as World Player of the Year. And then, even then, you look at those players that they were elite beyond all levels of elite, to be able to get there since 2001, when the award was created. I think it was 2001 when the award was created. So I would love nothing more than to see a true die-hard prop, someone like Nché, that he gives his all for the squad. He is an absolute dynamo. He has got everything you could potentially want when you think of a prop, right? What more could you want? What more could you ask for out of him to get him something like that? And, whether you have Cyril Baille, whether you have Tyrell Lomax, whether you have Ellis Genge, the list, it just goes on and on and on and on. And you look at all of the elite level talent that's there, and then you think of all the talent that's coming, that's coming into the fray. The new up and coming talent. what do they need to do to be able to get, you know, to be able to one day hold this prestigious title? I don't know. I don't think they will ever be able to do anything to be able to get that out of the hands of whether it's the back row or whether it's the backs. So let me know what your thoughts are. Please like and subscribe as always. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.